If you're looking at a franchise, that does not mean you have 100% success. Franchise gives you a path. It's still up to you. You do have to do the work.
Love that.
So don't think that you're out of the, like I'm out of the clear. I bought a franchise.
It's time to go into business for yourself. Get ready for another episode of the Franchise Academy podcast. Here's your host, small business and franchise expert, Tom Scarda.
Welcome to another episode of the Franchise Academy. My name is Tom Scarda. I'm a franchise consultant, advisor, and coach by day, and apparently a podcaster by night or something. I am excited to bring you best practices, things that you need to know about how to buy a franchise, invest in a franchise, but also how to run a franchise. Today, I have a franchise luminary, and I don't say that, just, for no reason. This David Mattson, who is the president, chairman of Sandler Training, is with us today, and he is a luminary in the business. He's been around in the business for a long time, and he's going to bring us some great. I'm not trying to age you, David. I'm sorry, but but I'm so excited to have you on the show. It's so great. So here is David Mattson, who is the chairman and the president of franchising for Sandler Training.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Looking forward to it.
Fantastic. This is so great. So Sandler, as a company, is how old?
David started in 1967, and we franchised in 1984. And Tom, not by design, Sandler had 13 people around the country representing him. And the state of Illinois said, I think you're a franchise. And we were a franchise. So we started franchising in 1984 by accident. Yeah.
That is so crazy. And how long have you been with the company?
I was a client in 1986, introverted by nature, thought you were a born salesperson, didn't know that you could learn it. So I was a client for 2 years. And then I went to sell for a franchisee. So I was selling Sandler. Met Dave Sandler because, he's obviously on stage. I was in the audience learning as a franchisee does at the conferences. And then I went down to work with David Sandler in 1988. I became his partner in 94, and unfortunately David passed in 95. But so I had the opportunity, the privilege really, to work with him day in and day out for 6 years.
So as a Sandler client,
yeah,
I've listened to David Sandler's tapes, training tapes, which are phenomenal and timeless.
Yeah.
How was he as a regular guy? Like, he sounds like just a regular gruff, like, hey, shut the no.
Yeah. So actually, he wasn't a gruff guy. He was not, actually. He would have been the nicest guy in the room. If you had met him, when you see or listen to him on stage, it always has to be black and white, right? So they don't have to interpret. So he's always black and white. But David, as a human, highest self-esteem, like you couldn't penetrate his identity. Very clear on next steps, super effective on time management, really cared about you. He would never talk about himself, always asked questions about you, your family, what's going on. And I'll tell you, it was the best 6 years of my life. Now, I was like you, Tom, right? So I was a client. I was already listening. I could repeat the tapes. I could repeat that stuff like there's no tomorrow. And to have the opportunity to work for him was phenomenal. And, I had the opportunity to sit and watch seminars and watch sales calls. And then I ran franchising. And then I did the national accounts group where I was on stage doing 2-day boot camps. And it was just the time of my life, actually. It was awesome.
It's just so wonderful. And it's the thing that I had found, again, I joined Sandler as a client in 2009 with Rob Fishman and
up in New York. Yeah.
Up in New York. I live in Florida now, but I still do black belt classes. I had one this morning with Rob Fishman.
There you go.
So I'm still involved and I love it. But I found that not only does it help my business, but it helps my everyday interactions with people. So I've learned so much. It's not sales training anymore. It used to be sales training. Now it's training, right? You guys changed that.
Well, we changed it from Sandler Sales Institute in 2007 to Sandler Training when I took over as CEO in 2007. I made that change. So we changed it to Sandler Training because we thought Sales Institute was too narrow. And then 2 years ago, we just dropped training because we do so much more, than train. And what you said is true, Tom. And there's 3 things that clients say to me that just wow me every single time. I mean, it's like the hair in the back of my neck goes up. It's, hey, David, I wish I met Sandler 15 years ago. You would have changed the trajectory of my career. If I knew now what I knew, man, I would have just crushed it. Second thing is I use Sandler in my personal life as much as I use it in my professional life, right? Because Sandler is based on psychology and communication. There's no tricky sales techniques. It's really understanding yourself and better understanding the other person. And then it just naturally happens. So why wouldn't that work in your personal life? And the third thing that they say to me is, I'm going to get my kids in Sandler so they don't have to go through the same road of pain and agony that I had to go through to end up finding you guys. What else? I mean, that's awesome. Honestly.
I have my son signed up for Sandler Training now.
Yeah.
So doing it, and all those same things. It affects my personal life, and I wish I would have known about it when I was way back in college.
Yeah, isn't that amazing? We do the best we can. Now we're giving content away for free to any college or university that's teaching sales or any college student. So, if we can help the next generation get better, because, Tom, if you think about it, everybody goes to school for engineering or this or that. There's like tracks, right? But there's no tracks for sales, but yet sales actually employs more people than any other industry. And it's the highest paid versus any industry, but yet there's no track. It's unbelievable. So you have to learn by failure. I don't know where else in the world or in your life you have to learn by failure. It doesn't work that way.
Right. And then we learn that salespeople have rights. And
yeah, we have rights. Yes. Yeah.
True. So it's phenomenal. And it's, for me, I'm an introvert. I'll sit next to you on a plane from New York to California and not say anything except for hello and goodbye.
Me too.
Unless you talk to me. And it taught me to not be an extrovert, but just to have confidence to be able to talk to people. So if you're an introvert and you're listening to this, look up Sandler. It could help you. And then you had just mentioned about how much you guys are evolving. So tell us a little bit about what's happening these days. I know there's AI, there's all sorts of things going on.
Oh, wow. I mean, so what's going on these days? Let's do some buckets. So technology since 2020 is accelerated to the point where it's just unbelievable, right? Like even this, Tom, I mean, how many people were doing Zoom podcasts 4 or 5 years ago? Not that many. Now, you were a pioneer. You've been doing it for a long time. But the majority of the world now, every single sales call they're on is Zoom. That did not happen really pre-20, right? So there's a lot of acceleration. So what's happening in our world? We've completely retooled all of the content that we have. We're talking about 8,500 assets have been redone for virtual presentation. So we always had the workbooks, we always had that stuff, but there's a different level of engagement when you're virtual than when you are in the classroom, right? And so how do you keep people from multitasking? How do you keep them from, just kind of wandering and taking a mental vacation and then really getting to use the material? So everything's taken us 2 years. Everything has been rewritten for that. We've also chunked it up into smaller chunks because if you think about, I have 5 children. My kids don't want to sit through a 45-minute webinar. They just don't want to do it. And, I can fight the fight, but the fact of the matter is it's our responsibility to serve up content the way people want it, not for them to convert the way that Sandler thinks it should be done. So we have chunked everything down into small bites. We have avatars, Tom, now. So you can watch a video from me or one of our 400 trainers, or you can hit a button and here comes an avatar. And the avatar, you can basically pick, who do you want to talk to you, sex, age, demographics, and they're the ones who are going to deliver the content to you. So think about that for a second. It's amazing, right? And we're about 6 months away from, if you think about, we have certification, right? Can we certify clients? Well, instead of you are a client with Rob Fishman, instead of going to Rob Fishman and say, well, here's my 30-second commercial, how did I do? You would actually do that to an avatar who will give you feedback. Tom, it was good, but you didn't do these 3 things. Like, it's amazing how much the technology is changing the world here. It's shocking, really. So we've embedded it all in the CRMs now. We have AI for funnel management. So we can now go to sales leaders and say, I can tell you by deal the probability of close. So when your salesperson says, I think it's closing this month, we've all heard that, and it doesn't close, but they don't know why, and it didn't close next month, and they don't know why. I can tell you without even listening to them, here's exactly what the problem is, and here's the probability of close. But more importantly, they need to do these three things to go from a 48% close to a 89% probability of close. Here's what you have to do. So I don't even have to think about it as a salesperson. I could read my own MRI and say, wow, these are the three things I have to do to get the sale moving along, or to just disqualify. It's okay. Because before I had to go to my sales manager and find 15 minutes on your calendar to explain all this, and it wasn't happening. So that is amazing. The content, as I said, has been redone, chunked down. We've added a lot of new programs to the mix, right? Like, for instance, how to use ChatGPT. How are you using the technology in your sales? All this stuff that may not be the Sandler selling system, but makes you a better, well-rounded professional, because ultimately that's what we need to do. So that's been there. And then there's a ton of systematic changes that we're making to support our franchise network, because there's a lot of change, and most of the franchisees don't have huge companies, right? So, they chief bottle washer and cook and doing all those things, and they have some support people, but you really have to net it down and make it super simple as far as what should I be doing in my franchise now and what should I wait on? Because you don't have to do everything right away because it's just too much. The ultimate goal is for you to obviously generate revenue and help clients. And when you've got all this stuff coming in, we've done a good job filtering what makes sense for you at what point in time in your business. And because we have a concept franchise, I call it, which is, you don't burn the hamburger for 2.5 minutes and flip it and burn it for another 2.5 minutes and the alarms are going off. You have so much flexibility with, in a franchise that's a business concept franchise. You can decide, hey, I want to focus on just insurance, or I want to focus on medical, or I want to focus just on leaders, or I want to do this. We don't care as long as you stay within the guardrails, But at the ultimate time, I think if you got an entrepreneur in the consulting field, you want to give them as much flexibility as possible with the highest probability of success. And I think over 40 years now, Tom, 40 years, I think we've gotten that, locked in.
Yeah, you do have it way dialed in.
Yeah.
You always have, even before technology. And now you guys are on the forefront of really being able to help just about anybody in business, whether it's a solopreneur or it's an enterprise company. So, kudos to you guys. I know you're working hard at it.
Thanks.
Just love what's going on. But I got to ask you, who is a good Sandler franchisee? I mean, do you need to be a sales guy? I mean, who makes a good franchise owner for Sandler?
There's no set recipe there's always an exceptions to the rules, right? But if I had to lump in, let's say very well statistically, I think it's somebody that certainly has been involved in business before. Like, I can't have somebody that's not been in business. It's not going to work, right? You should have some sort of sales background. Now, do I have some that don't? Yes, but I would suggest you have a sales background of some sort, even if it's 20 years ago. You have unofficially managed or mentored or coached some people, right? A lot of people that come into the network never really managed officially, but love to coach other salespeople, love to help other people. It's this unofficial training thing that really turns you on. That's who we attract. And if you think about it, we don't attract trainers. We don't attract public speakers. We don't attract entrepreneurs. We train you to do all those things. What I can't train you on fast enough is to do the behavior. So one of the things it takes is give yourself, I can say, a lobotomy. You're super smart. You've been doing it for a long time. Just suspend it. Please follow the system for at least 6 months until you're on the ground, and then get creative, but put your creative juices aside for a minute and just do this thing. But I think the number one thing, honestly, is consistent behavior. If you do consistent behavior, follow the recipe that we've given you, it'll work. But I'm looking for those types of people.
Well, yeah. My mentor, Rob Fishman, but he was in the jewelry business before that. And Rich Isaac was an engineer.
An engineer, right?
Engineer. Like, engineers can't sell nothing.
Yeah, but they said, but you still talked to or interacted with people. Like Rob was in B2C, right? So he was in the consumer thing, but you still have the interaction with others, and I think that's really the key to what it is. I mean, we're going to teach you all the Sandler stuff. We're going to teach you all that stuff, but you do have to have that, some hindsight of interaction with talking to other business people and getting to make decisions of some sort.
Right. And we talk to people every single day, just in our life. So that it's nothing really more than that.
Right.
So head trash, you got to get it.
And we all have it, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
Fear, doubt, and worry, right?
We're down and worry. It's just, it's just pervasive, especially in this industry as somebody's looking and thinking about a franchise, right? Somebody's listening now. They're listening to you. What advice do you have for somebody who's like freaking out? They don't know what to do. Should I buy a franchise? Should I not buy a franchise? Oh my God.
Yeah. I know that's a big question. I think that you are going to go through fear, doubt, and worry along the way. You're saying, hey, this is for me. And then you go 3 steps back because like, what am I going to do with my family? What should I do here? I do think some things are important that I'll answer is, hey, I think you need, partner support.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's got to be on board, right? It's tough enough to be an entrepreneur. You don't need to have, different battlegrounds. So that's there. I think you also have to understand that your friends are going to talk you out of it. Your friends are going to talk you out of it. Why? Because they don't have enough guts to be an entrepreneur. So if you do it, it looks bad for them, right? So if you really think about it,
that's right.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to say, "Oh, it's a bad time. Oh, it's this. Oh, it's that," because that's what they say to themselves, right? That's what they say to themselves. So, I mean, there's a lot of different things that will pop up. But out of curiosity, what's the number one thing that pops up that you hear when you're talking to people?
When they have that anxiety, what comes up is various forms of fear. So this will never work in my area. I call it getting wifed. When I know that's kind of very Sandler-esque back, in the 1970s.
Don't blame us, brother, for that one.
No, that's me. But it's when all the decision makers are not in the room and right, the wife or the husband is not there,
right?
They have not been there, so there's that, and it's also that number one thing is what Stephen Pressfield calls in his book War of Art, resistance. Resistance comes in all different forms. Right. And when you're trying to do something better for your life and for society at large, all sorts of things come against you because you're trying to do something good. If you decided, hey, I'm going to leave my CEO job and go work at McDonald's, you'll have no resistance. But if you want to go the other way around, it's going to be tough to do it. Yeah. And so I share with everybody that I work with, it's not about should I buy a Sandler or should I buy a Burger King? It's the choice between uncertainty or unhappiness.
Yeah. That's exactly it. Do you want to control your future and not get the letter when you're not expecting it, right? Or a group call, like my daughter just got a group call. There's 75 people online. If you're on this phone call, you no longer work for this company. Really? That's how they did it, right? And so who wants that? Or, a lot of people, not as much anymore, but people who came to our business wanted to control their future, wanted to, they thought they were worth more than they're currently making. And more importantly, they wanted to make sure that they were there for their family. They didn't want to keep traveling, right? Maybe the first kid, they have to wear a name tag because they don't even know that kid's name. They were on the road all the time. They're on the road all the time, And now most of the people that are in our franchise, they're coaching their kids' teams because they can. And I, people are like, do you want that? Do you allow that? I said, what do you mean? I mean, that's why they're here. I mean, it's important to them. So
true. I love that. So David, if you can right now, bust one myth, either about training or Sandler or a myth about franchising. What comes to
okay, well, I'll do both real quick. So franchising, if you're looking at a franchise, that does not mean you have 100% success. Franchise gives you a path. It's still up to you. You do have to do the work.
Love that.
So don't think that you're out of the, like I'm out of the clear. I bought a franchise. For the Mythbusters for Sandler. So we've been franchising for 40 years. Must be old and tired. Uh, we have 50,000 people come through our system every single year. We've morphed 9 times than I can count on. So just because you're old, where you have the experience in the industry, doesn't mean that you still don't lead that industry. And I hear sometimes like, oh, my grandfather went through Sandler. Okay, all right. So what does that mean exactly? But we are the largest in the industry for a reason. And so I think that's one of the myths for us. And I think, but more importantly, salespeople are made, not born. That's not a Sandler. Salespeople are made, right? Not born.
Okay. I love that too.
Yeah.
That's so true. Because my disc profile and my Myers-Briggs said, whatever you do, don't go into sales and don't go into business.
Yeah.
2 years later, I was the #1 franchise owner for Maui Wowie Smoothies.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. There's no more resistance, right? Oh, I can't do it. I can't do it.
Right, exactly. David, I want to thank you for your time. This has
Oh,
been
my
a
pleasure.
blessing for me to have you on the show. It's just been great. I will see you at a Sandler Client Summit.
I look forward to it. Florida. Yeah, next year. Look forward to it. That's awesome.
Yep, I know you guys just changed venues to a bigger venue, and things are exciting at Sandler. So thank you for your time. I know you're crazy busy,
My pleasure.
but this has been phenomenal. Thank you so much.
Good to see you, Tom.
Thank you.